Money Part 1.
Okay guys, there was two young fish swimming along one morning, and an older fish swam past them, and he said, "Morning chaps, how's the water?" Kept swimming. Two young fish swim on a bit, and then one of them turns to the other and says, "What's water?" Now the point of that parable is some of the most obvious, important, ubiquitous things are all around us, but we never actually take a step back and think about, what they mean. So, we're going to talk a little bit about money. Does it use you? Do you use money? So, first thing is, what do people think of money? Well, I've got a couple of $20 bills in my pocket. That's what most people think about money. Paper money. But I was at an abandoned house the other day, and I saw a Bank of Slovenia banknote. Those that might know, Slovenia joined the euro. This is worthless. This is a piece of paper. Won't buy you anything anywhere. What about Germany? This is a 100 mark note during the Second World War. They had such bad inflation. This is, what is this? A 20 million mark note. So people were literally walking around with wheelbarrows full of notes to buy a loaf of bread. Money became worthless. And these notes, if it's not backed by something, it doesn't have intrinsic value. So people might say, well, that was a couple of generations ago, Second World War in the 40s. Things have changed. A decade ago in Zimbabwe, this is $1 in Zimbabwe. Crazy hyperinflation. This is $100 trillion note. That's how crazy the inflation was. Exactly the same thing. Argentina, they defaulted on their currency. The Russian ruble defaults on the currency in the last decade. So, paper currency is at times worth money. It's worth value, but only because it's backed by something bigger. So, what has been around since humans started bonding in hunter-gatherer groups? What has been around? Before that, maybe it was the barter system. What has been around since the Babylonians? 5, 6, 7,000 years. Gold. Gold has been a store of wealth for thousands of years. Why is that? Well, it's easily dividable. You can melt it down. 99% purity, an ounce in the Swiss mint is worth the same as a 99% purity in the Australian mint. So it's very comparable. It's also got incredible. Tim, is this heavy? No, not too heavy. What about this? This is silver. It's a little heavier, right? So it has a very good weight to value ratio. But unlike something like a diamond, a diamond's not really divisible. It's a lot harder to mine. So gold has been around for a long, long time. In the 60s, I think it was, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, I think the dollar was $24 to 1 ounce of gold. So this is an ounce. So this in Nixon's time would pretty much buy this. Okay. Since then, these paper notes have lost over 95% value, and these are about $1,600. So it just goes to show that we've seen huge real inflation in our wealth, and for that reason, anytime I have money in my bank, a little bit of money, I get anxiety. So I'm like, I hate money just sitting there. I always want it growing, invested in, to the extent that I've actually called friends all the time, like, hey, can I borrow a few thousand? I pay my bills. It's terrible, terrible habit. So that's a big problem. In the U.S., I have an MBA in finance, and what they don't teach you is they teach you a lot about the stock market, the bond market. Why is that? Well, anyone that watches CNBC, stocks are exciting, right? Jim Cramer, noises, and this stock was up 30% today. It's like quick money. It's exciting. But 9 out of 10 US millionaires made their money in real estate. Arnold Schwarzenegger made his first million investing in the Santa Barbara real estate before he ever made $1 million in a movie. 9 out of 10 US millionaires have substantial real estate holdings. They made up the bulk of their earnings from real estate. The first millionaire in the US was a German immigrant, John Astor, I think his name was. He made some money in fur trading, and he started buying up Manhattan property. And he was also the first multimillionaire in American history because that property kept going up. And then 150 years later, when the Titanic sunk, his great-grandson, John Astor IV, was the richest passenger who drowned. He was worth about $3 billion. So it's pretty crazy. Now, what's so special about real estate? Why is it so good at making money? Ken is a very sharp guy. Ken, you buy Apple at $100. It goes up 10%. How much have you made?
110.
Right, you make 10%, right? What if you buy a $100,000 house, you put 20% down, and it goes up 10%? How much have you made?
So you made 50%.
50%, right? So that's the big secret to real estate is leverage. You're using bank leverage to make your money. The other big secret with investors is if you have a building and you have tenants paying rent, what they're doing every month is they're paying down your mortgage fee. So at the end of your loan, whether it's 25, 30 years, your tenants have paid down a building. So even if you have no appreciation at all, they've been paying you no down. So you have that's another great advantage of real estate. Another great thing, it's pretty much linked to inflation. So you have inflation protection. Another great thing about real estate, you don't pay tax on your income because your accountant, if he's smart, depreciates the value of the building to zero. So say you have $1 million building, the accountant says over 30 years, if it just stays there, by the end of 30 years, it'll be run down on the ground, it'll be worth nothing. So over that 30 years, it's gonna go from $1 million to zero. So every year you're collecting rent, you're collecting income, but you're not paying any tax on that because you're writing off against the building. Now, when you come to sell it, of course, you're gonna have to pay a big tax bill. You have a 1031 exchange, you roll it into another property. So there's all these great advantages to real estate. This is something that I wish I was taught in business school, or wish I was taught in the hard knock school of life, which I had to learn myself through trial and error and many adventures in the stock market. I used to have a trading company, but it's something that I wish that someone had pulled me aside as a young man and tried to explain a little bit about what money is and how we can make sure that we use it and we're not getting used by it. So that's the first part of the speech, and we're going to talk about a little bit more about mentalities to money in part 2. Thank you.